Hello, friends. How are you today? Well, today I'd like to talk about what is going on the chart with these blank spaces and what is the meaning. Well, this is the chart at the current moment while I'm recording. So up until this point is the current data. And then the black here is because there is no data yet. However, you may notice that right here, there's no data. And we're going to take a look at what may have occurred. So sometimes I do an astrology view with this. And I'm not going to do that because I think that I can see what occurred from looking at the charts prior and looking at this right here. Okay, looking at that right there and the numbers. And number one. And number two, I have done an astrological analysis on the recent Schumann trends. And I have two videos coming out about that. One sets it up, and then the second one goes into a deep dive on the astrology. So take a look out for that because it's really, really good. And not only that, but in the astrology, I'm going to do predictions. Because this energy that we've been experiencing this summer from the Schumann is going to be affecting us for some time, and I'm going to explain that in the video. Now, let's take a look in this video about what is going on with the missing data. And if this video resonates with you, if you could like and subscribe, that would be so great. I really, really appreciate it. And I want to let you know we're in the middle of my human energy workshop. And I'm going to have another workshop starting late September, early October. So I'm giving you all a heads up, anyone who is interested. And the workshop it's experiential, okay? And so I do lectures and give information that way. But the time together during the class that we spend like live, it's more than just talking through the information. We go through personal experiences and explain the energy dynamics and then generate an energy in the space that is pretty fascinating. And it's all about human energy systems and your personal experience, because to me, it's interesting intellectually to understand about the energy, but when you can own your own experience and start to really understand what is going on for you, right? And to bring clarity to that. And that's what we do in the workshop. And that's the intention of the workshop. And so, yeah, just giving you a heads up on that. Okay, so let's take a look at what's going on here. So it looks like solar activity has a lot to do with the missing data because there was big solar energy on the chart. Let me show you this table that I have updated. So this is up to the minute as of recording solar flare data. There were 4 M-class flares on Saturday, August 27th, 3 the day before and 2 the day before. So it's been very, very, very active, but let me show you something else. And no geomagnetic storms. What I did was I just added the data to the chart here, and let me make it big so you can see it. But you see where the data was gone. There was big sun energy. There were 3 M-class flares, and some of them quite large because we had 2.1, 7.2, and 5.4. So that's a lot of energy. And then here we had M4.9, 1.2, 1.1, 1.8. At least one of these was long duration as well. And the day before we had 2 M-class flares. So something happened, okay? Something big. And the reason why is it knocked the repeating vertical line pattern off its beat, if you will. So here you see between 9 and 10, right after the no data, we don't have really anything there. And now there is energy that goes till 21, and that's the period that it's been, right? Between 9 and 10 to 21, 30 actually. But we see that pattern broken up. This is very reminiscent of the pattern that we saw during the last series of M-class flares, and at that time there were also very large geomagnetic storms. So if you remember the vertical wave pattern, the last day of 18 days was August 18th. And then we had all that energy come in, right, over these days on the 18th and 19th, where we had huge hours of geomagnetic storms and disturbances and a significant number of M-class flares. And so then what happened was we had all of these vertical lines come in again, and all the very fine vertical lines. So that was up to the 20th. On the 21st, we saw a reigniting of that pattern. It didn't start at the same time this day, but then by the 23rd, it did. The 23rd, the 24th, the 25th, so 3 days in a row, and then bam, no data. So I think something really big happened here. And the second reason why is because this is here, and it's off of the pattern. And what's possible is that there were some waves of energy that came in here that then repeated the next day. Because that can happen because the energy goes around the planet. The current chart here at 5 a.m., you see that that's not repeating, but there are some vertical lines. We don't know because it's possible that the energy repeated. Now, the other interesting thing here from an intuitive interpretation, this looks like one of the red spiders that I used to see on the chart quite a bit for some time. It's quite blended with the energies, but how I would interpret this from an intuitive standpoint is that this extensive number of M-class flares and solar energy, it digs deep, right, within us. It encourages us to dig deep, to touch the places and bring the light of transparency to those places in our own shadow and in the shadow in the world. And when we do that, when we have the courage to do it, because it can be scary on a personal level, you know, and they say God doesn't give us a challenge that we can't handle. So if you're challenged, you must be able to handle it. But it's worth it to bring the light of transparency to these things, because once you find the red spider, whatever the red spider is for you, once you find that, and you see it sitting here in the brain waves, interpreting that, this up here is in the subconscious, this up here, this down here is in the alpha, observation, and then just a tiny bit going into the beta here, thinking. And so it comes out of our subconscious, and then we can see it. And once we can see it, that's when there's something that can be done. That's when we can say, hey, how do I want to address it? But the first thing is to call what it is by its name. Don't let people obfuscate to you and for you. Because when someone's talking, and when you're thinking about circumstances, see if you can get a finer and finer description of what's going on for you. Because people will use big words to say, oh, they did it, whatever. Or, when you're looking at something in your life, look behind whatever that big concept is and see if you can get to what are the prime movers about this for me. Because that's when you get the levers that you can start to pull and push to deal and to get to whatever the shadow element is for you. And once you get to the levers, then you can lever it out of there. You can get it out of your system. And sometimes we do that by making actual choices in the real world. And the choice closes some doors. And at first, it may seem like all the doors are going to close, but yet my intuition is telling me do this. And I'm afraid because all the doors are going to close, and I go with God, right? I go with trust. I go with the impulse coming from within me. That's my inner guidance, divinely inspired. And I do that, and suddenly the energy shifts. And new doors open that could not open before I was willing to make a choice about this thing. And sometimes that choice boxes it up and tosses it away. You know, I've done a lot of moving things out of my space recently. I can't tell you now how much angst I went through, and now how good I feel. I mean, it's just, it didn't seem like it was going to be worth it at the time. It seemed like I'm giving these things up, I'm letting go of things of value. You know, why would I do that? But yet my intuition said, trust me, you know, do this. So have courage, friends. Have courage. You can rely on yourself. And you can rely on God and divine guidance for you.